Welcome to our latest Hippocratic Adventures chat. This is where we talk about everything related to practicing medicine abroad. I'm your host, Dr. Ashwini Papat, and before we get started, if you aren't already on our weekly email newsletter, make sure to join. I will include the link below, but this is where we send out weekly tips, strategies, inspiration to help you move abroad. All right, so today I am here with Dr. Andrea DeMets. Dr. Andrea DeMets is a mid-career general pediatrician originally from the Midwest. She moved to Arizona after residency and joined a large private practice group in which she later became an owner and shareholder. Her practice was eventually acquired by a hospital system about 4 years ago, and she actually recently started a sabbatical abroad in Wassenaar, Netherlands, with her husband and 3 boys in tow. So, of course, that is what we're going to be talking about. But before we get started, smash that subscribe button, sit back, and enjoy. Dr. Andrea DeMets, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So let's get into it because this is what everyone wants to know. How did you make a sabbatical abroad in the Netherlands happen? How did you make that
Yeah.
happen?
So it's something, honestly, we had been planning for years. I mean, I had a practice partner who had kind of inspired the idea. She and her husband had planned on building a boat and sailing across the world. And that was their life goal and plan. And so after talking to her, and this was many years ago, my husband and I were like, we should not build a boat because we didn't think we could be as adventurous as she was, but do something similar where we just take a year off, show the kids a different cultural experience. So we actually have been planning this for 8+ years. And so it's been a long time in the making, with just initially the idea. And then, as it got closer, just more concrete planning financially. And then eventually, researching different countries to move to and making sure that, everybody was on board in the family and everything. So yeah, it's been a long time coming for sure.
So this must feel amazing now that you're actually in the Netherlands 8 years
It
in.
does, yeah. It feels a little bit surreal, to be honest, because my husband and I were talking the other day, and we're like, it's hard to believe that one, we actually like made this happen, because I think it's kind of scary thinking about like, not working and, leaving friends and family and just kind of your comfort zone and being comfortable with being uncomfortable. But yeah, it's a great feeling. And I mean, just being in a different culture and seeing even some of the things we've seen already has been amazing. So
That's wonderful. And so I actually want you to take us back a little bit. So when did you bring this up with your practice? How did you introduce the idea? Yeah, take us back to that.
yeah.
The hard
I
part that
mean,
people want to hear about.
definitely. I think some of my closer like practice friends, I had talked to them about this. I mean, obviously the one that made it happen with the boat and everything. I mean, she had left the practice several years before, I had started talking about this. So I feel like there was a little bit of a precedent set with what she had done. But yeah, I think I kind of talked to some of my practice colleagues a little bit about it first. And then, honestly, when our practice was acquired by the large hospital system, I didn't really broach it with them initially because I thought, that was kind of weird to be like, oh, I'm potentially leaving in a few years. And being one of the practice owners, like they really wanted, the owners to kind of buy in, as like, as far as the sale of the practice, because it affected a lot of people. So it was probably about maybe a year before, that I kind of started talking about it more seriously with some people. And then I gave the powers that be at our hospital system a good, oh gosh, it was at least 6 to 8 months ahead of time. And kind of told them this was my plan and this is when I was planning on kind of leaving. And and they were very gracious. I mean, I think especially being in pediatrics, I mean, work-life balance is important. So yeah, they were very supportive, but I definitely gave them ample time to kind of have that idea in their mind, especially needing to potentially fill my spot and make plans for my clinic and that type of thing, and my patients, of course. So
Okay. So you actually gave them a heads up about 6 to 8 months prior to actually leaving for sabbatical. And then how did you have to then help them hire a pediatrician to take your spot? How did you communicate that with your patients that you've probably seen?
yeah, I didn't, and my organization, I think that so we had the opportunity to do like a long-term leave of absence. So I think if I really wanted to go back to my same spot and practice and everything, I was under the impression I probably could have done that, but I was in a position where it was a good opportunity for me to kind of take a break. And so I had decided I was going to take a break from clinical medicine anyways, and make this a little bit of a year to kind of reflect and refresh and decide kind of where I want to go next. But they helped. I didn't have to do any like hiring or any kind of recruiting or anything like that. Because it's a more of a larger organization, they were going to take care of all of that. But as far as telling my patients, they were again great about letting me do that before kind of an official letter came out. And then also allowing me to kind of personalize that letter a little bit. So that was the hardest thing, I think. I mean, kind of get in the day-to-day grind of medicine, and I feel like sometimes you just don't think you're making a big difference. And then once I started telling people I was leaving, I mean, it was hard for sure. I told my husband, I'm like, it kind of feels like attending your funeral before you die because people say such nice things and like just very gracious and very appreciative. And I think just something I wish that everybody could hear on a regular basis, like that it takes leaving and breaking that relationship a little bit to hear those things. But that was definitely one of the hardest things, is telling some of my patients that I've seen since birth, really, so.
And so in going into the sabbatical, your plan is, it sounds like you were kind of clear that you wanted a break from clinical medicine for a little bit. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I went through several periods like during training where I was kind of like, do I want to pursue more administration, healthcare policy practice? And I had a lot of mentors that were kind of like, you're not going to get a good idea of either admin or policy unless you kind of get your feet wet and practice. And so I decided to go through with the pediatric residency, and then, life happens, and I got married. I had 3 kids. 2 of the 3 are twins, which were not like planned.
That's
It
a
was
handful, yeah.
planned to have 2 babies. And anyway, so I felt like then, like literally 18 years later, here I am after practicing. And so I'm actually pursuing an MBA to do more kind of administrative work and maybe do more of that kind of the second half of my career. But I felt like it's always kind of been in the cards for me maybe to do something else, but never the right time to kind of make that leap, So this felt like a good time and a good break for me to start doing that.
And how did your colleagues react? I'm sure your friends knew that you had been thinking about this for a while, but how did the other colleagues react to you kind of taking a leave from the practice, going on sabbatical, and thinking that maybe I'm not going to come back to clinical care?
Yeah. I think that there was, they were very supportive. I mean, I think a lot of people from admin, even higher level admin at my organization, to even like my staff that I work with on a day-to-day basis, like very supportive of it. I mean, it wasn't, I think it was different because it wasn't just like I'm burnt out, I'm leaving, or gosh, I'm tired of X organization, or that kind of thing. It was more, hey, I'm going to go pursue this unique experience with my family. And so I think that people knowing the why behind doing it was also very helpful in people being supportive. So they were, I mean, definitely sadness. It's when you work with people for so long, it's definitely your family. And so that was hard too, is just leaving people. But everybody was pretty supportive overall, which was nice. So.
That's awesome. And how did your family react? And what was how have your three boys actually reacted to this? And have they
Yeah.
moved with you to the Netherlands, or are they? I don't know how
Y-
old they
Yeah, they are. Yeah, so my oldest is 13 and then my twins are 8. And we had kind of wanted to do this before my oldest went into high school and, still wanted to be with us. But that the twins were old enough that they could kind of remember it and appreciate it. So initially it was kind of funny because last summer, my husband and I had been here before,
are.
but we brought the twins and my oldest last summer for 2 weeks, and that's when we kind of introduced the idea. And I think that the twins initially were a little bit freaked out because I think they actually thought we were just up and moving last summer, and I was like, "No, we're coming back. Like this is just a vacation." So I think that helped them kind of get ready. There were some moments where they're like, I don't think I want to do this, but I told them, I'm like, this is our adventure as a family and we need to rely on each other. And there's going to be times that, we're not going to like it or it's going to be hard or whatever. But I said, this is a unique opportunity for us to do this as a family. So they were definitely on board and have been doing great. I mean, they haven't started school yet, so they're living their best lives right now. Staying up later. Yeah. So once school starts, I think the reality will set in. But no, they've been really good. I mean, kids adjust so well overall, I mean, I think that, again, in my line of work, I just feel like if the kids adapt, it's the adults that I think sometimes have a harder time. So they're doing great though. Yeah.
And so your 13-year-old, though, he's almost going to be in high school. He wasn't worried about leaving his group of friends or trying to make new friends at that stage.
A little bit. I mean, yeah, he's going to be in 8th grade, and junior high is a hard, awkward.
Oh,
I know one of my friends back in the States was saying he should be thanking you for taking him out of
that's true,
middle school in the
actually.
United States. I was like, that's true.
That's a
But no,
good.
he's a great kid. I mean, he is awesome and he makes friends easily. And I think he was excited to move to a different country and experience something different, and then knowing that we're going back and then being able to share that experience with his friends. So yeah, he was the one I was the most worried about, and I feel like he was probably the most on board about all of this, which was kind of cool.
And how did you then, you live in Wassenaar,
Yeah.
and yeah, they're going to go to school in the fall. So how did you pick that town and how did you find a school?
Yeah. So here in the Netherlands, there's kind of a couple different like tiers or formats of school. So Dutch school is kind of their public school system, which obviously everybody speaks Dutch. And that wasn't something that we were thinking of for school because none of us are fluent in Dutch. And then there's international schools of each city, but that's more of a British curriculum. And so the school that they're going to be going to is called the American School of the Hague. So it's the only American-based curriculum here in the Netherlands where we felt like it would be easy for them to transition into and out of. But so we found the school online, and it's in the town of Wassenaar. Not that we necessarily had to live here because everything's so close, but we toured the school last summer and just fell in love with it. I mean, it's a phenomenal school, just lots of resources and kids from like all over the world that attend the school. So so they fell in love with the school actually more, I think, than the Netherlands because
Well, the school will be their life
yes,
for.
that's true. So they're excited, and it just sounds like a wonderful opportunity for them to meet people from all over the world, and even the teachers are from all over the world. So I think it'll be a unique opportunity for them. But yeah, so when we knew kind of we wanted them to attend that school, then we just started looking for housing more, in and around Wassenaar, just to make it easy for us to commute to school and everything. So
Okay, that makes sense because
yeah,
that isn't the most obvious choice I would think in the Netherlands, but now I understand.
yeah.
So in prepping for this, so it actually sounds like you gave your kids a really good heads up about a year ago. You brought them there on vacation, introduced the idea, checked out a school with them. And I think that's such a great way to introduce the idea, but also to help them familiarize themselves to the school that they'll be going to, so they can really like envision or have some idea of what life could be like there.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think that's such a great way to prepare them for a move that otherwise can feel really scary.
Right, right. And I
Um,
think keeping them involved in the decision making too, it was important for us so that they felt like this was a family decision and not just, oh, mom and dad are making us do this. And,
mhm.
more of it being a choice, and an active decision for them too. So,
Yeah, I think that's such a great way to ease them and to have them be part of the process, part of
mhm.
the adventure, right?
Yes.
So you have been in the Netherlands now for a couple weeks. How
Uh-huh.
does it feel? What are some of the differences you've noticed, like off the bat? If you're listening to this and thinking, hey, I too want to move abroad, then make sure to download this freebie and learn the 3 key steps to kickstart your own adventure.
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, I've traveled a lot, just in my, as somewhat as a kid, but more in my adult life. And I mean, there's definitely a difference of being a tourist versus trying to live and, make a life in a country. So I feel like it's made me a lot more sympathetic and empathetic to people that come from the States from other countries and try to navigate our system. So yeah, I mean, and it's hard too, because we didn't come with a job. I think a lot of people come with a job and then they have, kind of a Dutch liaison that helps them with certain things like, mail system and banking and all of that kind of thing. And some of that we've had to navigate ourselves. So we did hire an immigration lawyer that kind of helped us get over here. And so they've been a remarkable resource as far as getting, our residence visa and that type of thing. So yeah, but otherwise it's definitely, I mean, kind of fish out of water is probably the best term, because there's just certain things that are done so differently here, that we've just had to become accustomed to. And but not bad. I think a lot of it, a lot of the experience is the journey, right? And just
Yeah.
learning through those experiences.
What are the specific things that you feel like they do really differently that really stand out where you're like, huh, why is it done like this?
Yeah, yeah. I think, one of the things that comes to mind, just because this is something we've been dealing with, is just opening a bank account. Like we had to go in person to open a bank account because of there's some financial agreement between the United States and the European Union. So I think it was a little bit harder for us to do that, but we had to do
Mm.
that in person. But then once we did that in person, we couldn't just get our bank cards and start banking. So then they had to mail us our bank cards, but then we were having some issues with the post system, so we weren't getting the bank cards. So so anyway, we finally got the bank card and activated that, but then they had to send you like a username and a password by mail. So everything is like relying on snail mail. And I was like, wait, it's like 2024. Why are we still relying on the post? But yeah, so that's definitely a difference of just, going through those kind of steps that we're just used to getting everything, I think, so quickly in the States. So yeah, but I feel like other than that, I mean, there's really, the things are different as far as just grocery shopping. I think in the States we have those big, we've got our Costco, and we've got our big, huge grocery stores with these huge parking lots. And coming from Phoenix, I feel like, definitely a bigger landscape. So just dealing with, I think, the smaller nature of life here, it has been an adjustment for us.
Yeah, I can definitely say, like, coming from shopping at Costco and getting the huge
Yeah.
sizes, huge packs, you're like, "Oh, I guess we're getting a pack of, like, 6 toilet paper rolls today."
Right, right. I know.
It's just a little different for
I
sure.
know, and it's hard to feed 3 boys with without a Costco, so
Oh, it's so true. Any actually, I actually didn't think about this, but how hard was it to get your residency permit to live in the Netherlands for a year, actually?
yeah.
For some reason, I thought you may have been an EU citizen or something, but no. Okay,
No,
so
yeah,
talk about
so
that actually.
and that was one of, when we did our research as far as picking a
Yeah.
country, and visa requirements was obviously one of those things that we looked into. But the Netherlands has what's called a DAFT agreement, or the DAFT treaty, which allows us as U.S. citizens to come over here on a 2-year self-employment visa. So my husband actually, he's in like land planning and urban design and did golf course design for a long time. So he actually incorporated a company here. And so we got a 2-year residence visa that's like a self-employment visa. So you could also do a highly skilled work visa as well. But I knew I wasn't going to be working as a physician. And so that was going to be hard to do with that. So, yeah, so we're here on this 2-year self employment visa. But I would say, if you're not an EU citizen, or just whatever your situation is, just even consulting with an immigration lawyer is going to be the most important thing to kind of see what your options are, and determine just how to make it happen.
And this was an immigration lawyer based out of the
The
Netherlands.
Netherlands, yeah, and they've been wonderful. I mean, they've been helpful for the whole process, mainly the incorporation, obviously, of the company, but also just in asking, certain questions about navigating other systems and that type of thing. So that would definitely be a good place to start, I think, for anybody looking at doing a sabbatical in a certain country. Yeah. So, and we just got our residence cards yesterday, which is
Oh,
exciting.
good. That's super exciting.
I know, they're these little plastic cards, and we got them at the IND office. And then one of my twins said to me, he goes, "Mom, can we drive now?" And I was like, it's not, I said, "It's not a driver's license. It's just a little card saying we can stay here for 2 years." So that
Oh, that's funny.
was funny.
Well, that makes a lot of sense because I imagine for a lot of people who may be thinking of taking a sabbatical where they aren't employed in that country, trying to figure out the work visa would definitely be one of the kind of obstacles that you have to problem solve around.
Mhm,
That's actually
mhm.
helpful to know how you kind of maneuvered that. Um, so, and lastly, I would say, any advice for a fellow physician who is thinking about doing a sabbatical abroad? Maybe they want it to be 1 year, and then maybe they want to go back to clinical care. Maybe they're kind of taking it as a break and seeing what the future could hold for them. A lot of people are really scared about even just bringing it up with their practice,
Mhm.
with their colleagues, things like that. So any advice for someone who is thinking about a sabbatical abroad and is just struggling with how to actually make it happen?
Mhm, yeah. I mean, one of the biggest things I think that's important is that, if you sit back and think like, people are going to be mad at me, I can't broach this with the practice I'm in. To me, that might say something about your workplace.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, because I feel like if you can't even bring it up, then, that might be more of a toxic environment. But I think that just even planning, planning ahead, obviously giving yourself ample time, and then just taking that leap. I think some of the biggest risks that we take in life reap the biggest rewards. And so I think if it's something that, people have been thinking about and not sure if they can make it happen, I think just taking those first steps of, thinking about where they would want to go. And really, even just initially, even if it's a dream, and you think, oh, I can't make this a reality. A lot of times, I think we as physicians, because we're blessed with this unique skill set, I think we can make it happen, and we always have that MD to fall back on. So I think that that's important to realize as well. Your worth, you know what I mean, as far as like do this for yourself, but know that, we all potentially have something to come back to is important. And then I also think too, I mean, life is so short. One of the biggest reasons that my husband and I decided to do this was because we didn't want to wait until retirement. And, you go through your whole working career saving up for the glorious retirement days, and then you just never know what's going to happen in those retirement days with health and other family and that type of thing. So that was a huge decision making factor for us, of just life is too short and we want to do this now. And we want to experience this with our kids rather than just the two of us. So I think if people are thinking about it, I think they need to just kind of go for it and start planning, and see where it takes them as far as, where they want to go or what they'd want to do or those types of things. So, yeah.
I think that's great advice. I don't know if anything can prepare you for that leap. You talk about that leap. That leap can feel, for a lot of people, can feel really scary, but I like the idea. I like the way you did it, in the sense of it wasn't a huge leap, in the sense of you introduced this idea to your family a year ago. You introduced this to your practice a while ago as well, and it was actually a very incremental stepping stone. And I think it doesn't have to be like this grand like leap off a cliff and you
Right.
don't know where you're gonna go, but you actually did it in a very measured way. And so I think that's such a great piece of advice, that if this is something you're thinking about, you've been mulling it over for a while, just start taking little steps, start doing the research, maybe do that reconnaissance vacation mission,
Right.
bring your family into the fold, bring your kids into the fold, like help them, like let them be part of the process. I think with kids that were probably 7 and 12 when you started, I think what you did was so helpful to actually help them be part of the process, make this an adventure for them too, and not just for you and your husband.
Yeah.
I think that's
Definitely. And I think too, keeping in mind that, as physicians, we put so much of ourselves, our livelihood, into our jobs, that it's important to take time for ourselves. I mean, I think, having I think it'd be great if medicine would incorporate sabbaticals into jobs just routinely. I mean, I'm from Arizona, obviously, and so Intel is a big company in my in Phoenix area, and they offer a sabbatical to their employees. I think it's like every 5 years or every 7 years or something. It's just part of their workplace, and so I wish we would have embraced that more in medicine, because I think there's just so much burnout. And even, some of the people that have even reached out to me since I kind of advertised I'm doing this are only 3, 5, 7 years out of practice, and they're already burnt out. And I feel like that says something about our current state of medicine if we're burning out so early. That I wish that sabbatical idea was just incorporated into, our jobs, but obviously it's not. So
no,
try
I
to
think
make it happen.
yeah, and I also think about the precedent that you're setting. So your colleague who sailed around the world, she set a precedent for your practice in many ways as well. And now you're setting a precedent for yourself, for your colleagues, for your friends in medicine, who are like, hey, she's doing something really cool and she seems happy. Her family seems excited about this. Like, I wonder if I could do something similar, right? And I
Yeah.
think that culture change happens when we start advocating for ourselves and for our needs, because a lot of the folks that I talk to, a lot of them will say, like, I was an EM physician and I completely was super tired of the work in the US and the amount of time I spent behind the computer and not actually with the patients. And then they took like a year-long position in New Zealand, and they'd be like, I'm doing what I love. I'm with patients. I'm doing the medicine I love. And
Mhm.
I didn't like, I'm practicing medicine, which was the main difference compared to what I was doing in the US. So just sometimes that change in environment and change in perspective is huge to helping you kind of
Mhm.
refresh and rediscover medicine and what you like.
Mhm. Well, and even I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I went into this year, and I know I'm pursuing an MBA, but honestly, I went into this year thinking, I don't know where I'm going to be in a year. Mentally, I don't know where I'm going to be as far as, am I going to miss practicing? I think when you're immersed in one environment or one situation, it's hard to think of, like what else you might want to do, or am I going to miss this if I step away from it? And again, it's not until you do that you decide, okay, what do I really miss about practicing medicine? Whether it's the people or just the problem solving or that type of thing. So yeah, I hear you as far as just stepping away and then kind of realizing, gosh, this is what I love about this profession, or like I don't miss this at all. Like my real calling is, opening a bed and breakfast or something. I don't know, but you know what I mean? Like, I just think it gives you that time to reflect that we just, again, as physicians don't get, because it's kind of just a go, go, go kind of world. So,
And I just love the fact that you are open to the process of what may happen over the coming year, how you're going to feel about how you feel about clinical practice, whether you miss aspects of it, or if you're thinking, which it sounds like right now, you're thinking you want to go more the non-clinical route. But the fact that you're even open to these options and just seeing how you personally feel about it, I think that's huge, because I think for a lot of people, not having a plan in some ways, in the sense of, in medicine, you go through 4 years of med school. The next step is residency. You go through however many years of residency. For some people, the next step is fellowship. After fellowship, it's attending. After attending, like maybe you become a partner at your practice. Maybe you own the practice. Maybe you become a professor of whatever field. So there is actually like a very traditional, I wouldn't say linear, but there is a path, a very clear path in medicine. And so the fact that you aren't really saying like, I've committed to this path or to that path. I just really want to explore the things that I enjoy and see how I feel about it. I think that's also really takes a lot of courage, I think.
thank you.
And I mean, I say this for myself. I'm telling myself that as well.
You're like,
But
oh, wait, are we still doing the interview? I was just talking to myself.
but I think that I think that's something that's important to be like, look, this doesn't have like a clear path that leads to the clearest next step in
Right.
terms of what's written down on paper as to what it should be the next step. This is really an opportunity that you get to figure out what are your interests, like where do you see this going for you?
Absolutely. And I think that was I was that person that went from, right from college to medical school, and medical school to residency. And then right after residency, got into a job. And so I never really took that step back. I mean, I think I did to some extent mentally. I had a mentor that told me one time, he said, every 5 years, just take a mental like pause and say, is this where I want to be? Is there something else I'd rather be doing, and that type of thing? And I thought that was the best advice. And so I think even if you do that and you're like, okay, this isn't the right time, you still force yourself to take some of those mental pauses of, is this what I really want to do? But I felt like physically I didn't really take any breaks. And so that's why this was a big step for me, who, as many of us are, like you said, very much planners, where we have, that safety net, we have the plan B. So this was a big step for me, which I think also with my friends and family, knowing that I am a little bit more conservative, they were, impressed that we did take this leap. But again, I think it's going to be such an amazing experience for all of us, that even in years to come, I really hope my kids, think back on this year and appreciate even the the road bumps.
For sure. Well, Dr. Andrea DeMets, thank you so much for sharing your experience, sharing your insight, sharing how you made the sabbatical happen. And we would actually love to invite you back in maybe a year time and to get
Absolutely.
to learn more about how the year went and what you're thinking and what you're up to now. Up to
That would
then,
be great.
I guess.
Thank you so
We'd
much for
love to
having
do
me.
that.
Thank you.
Of course. So, with that, we're wrapping up another episode of our Hippocratic Adventures chat. Make sure to like, subscribe, share this with a colleague or friend, because this really helps us reach more physicians who want to move abroad, who want an experience abroad, and just don't know how to do that. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What's your biggest insight or aha from this conversation? And what resonated with you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're looking to start your own adventure, make sure to grab your free ebook, How to Start Your Adventure. Sign up at hippocraticadventures.com/subscribe. And best of all, when you sign up, you'll also get our free email weekly newsletter where we share tips and strategies about moving abroad that we don't share anywhere else. So make sure to sign up now. And with that, we wrap up another episode of Discovering Where Your White Coat Can Take You.